In the Know, a radio program talking to the newsmakers in Ogle, Lee, DeKalb counties and beyond, keeping you in the know. Here's your host, Charles Van Horn.
Good morning. Joining us in the studio, the mayor of Rochelle, John Bearrows. Good morning.
Good morning. How you doing today?
Doing great. Now, before we talk a little bit about you, let's mention the fact the last 2 weeks or so, the Public Works Department in Rochelle's been working their tails off with the snow and the cold weather. They've been doing a great job.
Yes, they have, and we are somewhat limited when you get a big, large event like we've had here this past week. The staffing, and we're limited on the hours. We only have so many hours that each person can work, and they're really just doing an amazing job of keeping up with it. Not only the snowfall, but then you have the cleanup, and you have the ice that gets created from the plowing of the snow. And cleaning up the downtown, all that. It's a big project.
It's fortunate you guys have had plenty of practice. Only one big casualty from the snow as of late. That would be the gazebo that unfortunately collapsed due to the weight of the snow. I guess if you want good news there, thankfully nobody was around when that happened, so everybody was safe. But looks like you guys now have some plans to make.
Well, and oddly enough, at the time we're recording this, which is on the Wednesday, we do have a meeting this afternoon on Wednesday to talk about the downtown plans, because we've received a grant to redo the downtown and include some restrooms and such. And there was always talk prior to this snowfall about how are we going to blend this around the gazebo. Well, now the gazebo is not going to be an issue, so we have to kind of go back to the drawing board and see how we're going to do that.
It is nice to have all those public spaces in and around town.
Absolutely.
Sure. Now, to go back to what we were going to talk about before weather got in the way, John, this is my first chance to sit down and chat with you and to get a little bit more knowledge out of you about how you got your start. You grew up around here?
Yeah, born and raised in Rochelle. I was actually born just outside of city limits. Throughout my younger days, back in my early 20s, I began with I was on the grade school board for a while. I was on the Flag Township Board of Trustees. Served on the Ogle Fire Protection District Board of Trustees for a little over 30 years.
So that's a lot of standing up for the Pledge of Allegiance.
That is. And I've always had the feeling that I'd like to be mayor someday. And in 2013, we moved to Rochelle within the city limits. And someone approached me about becoming a city council member. So in 2017, I did that and was elected to city council. And in 2019, I ran for mayor and was elected in 2019 and then reelected this past year. So here I am.
Yeah. And so now you bang the gavel at the meetings.
I do. It's a very interesting job as mayor. One thing I will say is I do a lot of presentations around the community just to update folks. Not only this program, but I talk in person to folks at Hawthorne and Senior Center and various places throughout the community. And one of the things that I always talk about is it's great to be able to be here and tell you about all the great things that Rochelle has going on. And I'd love to be able to tell you it's because of me, but we have an amazing staff at City Hall. We have amazing department heads. If you're talking about budget, the city manager does a great job of working with department heads to massage the budget into a reasonable, prioritizing projects and such. You surround yourself with good people, and we always talk about Team Rochelle, or at least I do, and I feel, and most of our staff feels, we are a team. And we talk about back in you're probably too young to remember, but back in the 80s when the Bears won the Super Bowl.
I remember that game. I had it recorded on Betamax. Thank you very much.
Oh, my goodness. That's going back some. But I always say the reason the Bears won that or the Cubs won the pennant is because they had the right players in the right spots. And I feel like very strongly that right now, today, we at the city have the right players in the right spots. And I'm very thankful for all that they've done to allow me to work with them. I am really more of a hands-on mayor. I get involved in all the committee meetings, the project meetings. I like to know what's going on because when I'm approached on the street, I want to at least be able to give some type of an answer that is somewhat intelligent and know what's going on.
Rochelle has had its economic ups and downs. Certainly, you have lots of industry in the area, the potential for more. You've cycled through a couple of businesses here and there. You guys have fought hard and worked with state legislation to make sure you keep some of those economic zones for big industrial projects. Obviously, we still have a lot of fields out there now between the railroad tracks and 88 and 39 and all those places where things could go. Are you hopeful that maybe some more industry can come to the area, that you can get another one of those, a big distribution center or, more tin out there, so to speak, more tin buildings?
Well, this is our first time in meeting, so I'll share some information with you about me that you will soon learn. I'm probably the most optimistic person there is in the world. I truly believe we have a great economic development group. We work closely with the Gredco group. I had a meeting this morning, early morning meeting today, about 2 or 3 different companies that are looking at Rochelle. I feel very strongly that this economic development and equalized assessed valuation will continue to rise in our community, bringing jobs, bringing RMU customers for electric. We own our own utilities. That's very important because what that does is that helps offset the cost for some of the residential. I think we've been very fortunate since 2019. I just pulled these figures together for one of the companies that's looking here. Since 2019, to current today, the EAV has gone up every year.
Wow.
And that's the first time that's happened since 2019. Every year it went up. And it's just, it's an amazing accomplishment by not only, our staff and our economic development group, but when you bring Gredco into the mix, which is Greater Rochelle Economic Development Corporation, they also work with trying to help develop. They had some rail right-of-way that they had purchased, and that got turned over to the city. The city bought it and expanded our railroad down across Johns Creek, which is a new bridge on that spur that we have, the city-owned track. We're very unique here in Rochelle in that we have our own utilities. We have our own railroad. We're one of the very few that has our own privately owned railroad here in Rochelle. We've got the intermodal transload yard. Interesting story about the transload yard. When I became mayor in 2019, the Union Pacific closed their. They actually told us they were going to go idle, which now today I know meant they're going to close.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of local businesses that utilize the transload and intermodal facility. So when I came back from Springfield, just after the election, and they said the media was at the city hall wanting to know what the mayor-elect was going to do since the Union Pacific closed the intermodal yard.
Yeah.
So when I got back, I said the first thing that came to mind, I said, I'm going to do everything in my power that we can have a transload intermodal yard here for our local businesses. And I'm happy to say that is the intermodal portion is not running full yet, but the transload yard is running, and we're working with, there's some fumigations going on for grain that's shipped overseas, has to be fumigated before it goes. So we lease some space to a company to fumigate. So it's becoming a reality, and I hope, I've said this before when Jeff was still doing the show, I always say I hope by fall we can have a groundbreaking or a ribbon cutting or a big celebration, and then it was hopefully by winter, and now I'm saying hopefully by spring we're going to have that celebration of that opening of the intermodal facility.
When I talk to city leaders, they sometimes get upset when I bring up this topic, which is jealousy. And I say that in reference to DeKalb attracting a lot of major industries and distribution centers and things like that. And, you can look at it on paper and go, DeKalb has 14 miles on Rochelle. That's it. There's no difference. And how does that make you feel when you sometimes see those announcements in other communities nearby of things that, you kind of want to wave your hands and go, why not Rochelle?
Well, I'm kind of a firm believer that when we hear about something like that, whether it was the Facebook or the candy factory or the candy warehouse, any of those projects in other towns, I don't want to see us waste our energy and resources on wondering why we didn't get them. Pay attention to what we have coming here. Take good care of those, and we'll get the companies to come here. Obviously, for a town our size, 9,500 people, we've got an amazing amount of commercial and industrial development. The other thing you have to remember is, we have some advantages that no one else has. One is our privately owned utility, Rochelle Utilities. We're below the state average electric rate all day long. We keep getting notices from the city manager about that, city manager stays on top of this electric department. It's something he really is passionate about, and he stays on top of the fact that our rates are great. Those of us that, including myself, when I get my light bill, I might think that seems high, but it really is not when you compare. I have property elsewhere that has an electric bill from other folks, and we're below below other folks quite a bit. So I guess my point, the short answer is, when we see things like that, don't waste your energy trying to figure out why we didn't get it, because they're going to go there. They've already broke ground. Pay attention to what we have in our own backyard, and we'll do okay. We have, in talking to Jason Anderson with our economic development group, Jason will have an RFI, request for information, come in from 3-4 companies a week.
Yeah.
So there's people looking at Rochelle. We have something that nobody else has. We have both mainline railroads come through our community. Both north, south, east, west interstates run through our community. Access and ease of transportation is a real element in the commercial and industrial growth.
And not only that, you have perhaps one of the greatest mascot names for a high school, just so you know. Mr. Mayor, joining us this morning on the program. Of course, economic-wise, always trying to be positive, always looking for things to expand for business. For the community as well, you touched a bit on parks. What else do you think is going to be coming to the area for residents to enjoy?
Well, I think one of the things that I think is going to be interesting is we're going to have a community update in March, I believe it is, or actually a State of the Community address, to talk about some of the things that have happened. When I talk about quality of life issues, that's really what it's all about for people that look at coming to a community. And one of the things that I feel ranks up at the very top of our quality of life issues is our crime rate and the support that we get from our local police department and officers. And I shouldn't just say officers, from dispatched officers to detectives and all that. They really keep a close handle on our crime rate. And, I've always said, if you could have all kinds of big box stores in the area, but if people are afraid to come out of their homes at night, what good does it really do you? And I think in our quality of life issue, the police department and that ranks right up there. One of the other things that I look at, and I've been talking to folks about relocating to Rochelle over the past several months, and one of the things you have to realize is Rochelle has things to offer, not only the person that's coming here for a job, but many times when someone comes to a community, perhaps their parents come with them. And so we have one of the greatest small town hospitals that you could ask for. We're very fortunate to have a Rochelle Community Hospital, part of our community. Our schools, our schools for the kids are just fantastic. The high school and grade school both do a great job, and they're under a lot of stress and pressure from the state, providing programs that they don't get funding for. Also, we have nursing homes. We hate to admit it, but, we could have a time when we need to be entered into a nursing home, and parents need to have that special care. The rehab center out by Hawthorne. I mean, when my mother back in 2017 broke her hip, I would love to have had something locally to get her therapy here locally, but we didn't have it at the time. So now we're kind of get a full round of things that are helpful. Parks, the park district, we're not over that, but the park district has a lot of great things for our community.
And that's great to hear. Look forward to having you back on the program soon. And invite me to that next big groundbreaking and ribbon cutting, all right?
I definitely will. Are you coming to the council meeting, the next one?
I will be there with bells on.
Super.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this week's In the Know. The program returns next week at this time with another great conversation with someone from your community.